All right, so here's the Trojan as it sits right now. So hopefully you can kind of get a sense of what it looks like. Everything's in good shape. There aren't any real problems with it. It's been flown a bunch, so I mean, I guess it's a little bit dirty. I could clean it up a little bit. There's this little spot where a little bit of the foam had come out, so I filled it to make it kind of nice and smooth. Hasn't bothered it any. So from there, front motor, cowl's basically perfect. Yeah, it's in good shape. I mean, there's nothing really wrong with it. You were asking about the sort of cowl attachment. So it's just magnetically on there. So when I pull this off, you can see that it's the whole foam tray. You were looking at the top part. So you see I have cut this out, but I kept the overall frame to keep it looking nice. But I cut out all the plastic so that the FPV stuff could sit inside of it. This is all 3D printed and laser cut all of this to fit perfectly into this cockpit. But you can just pop this guy off. It's the base, there's a servo under there that does the turning, the pan. This is of course just glued in here, so you can just pop that guy out too if you want to move this to another plane, no big deal. Transmitter there, 600 milliwatt. Does a great job on range. It's a patch antenna on there, pretty decent one, so it gives you good signal. Camera's a Runcam, one of the little guys. Forget the model. Runcam Nano 2 looks like. The way this is wired in, of course, so I haven't used any of the audio, so that's ground and signal wire for audio. If you want audio, you can put it in there, although all you'll hear is the engine. And then the other three wires are, you know, your typical power in, ground, and video. So I just put I like servo connectors on these things. I put a servo connector on there that can then plug in easily elsewhere. It's just nicely bundled. So the yellow here, of course, is video. And so that traces right back to the yellow that goes directly in here. And then basically the only other thing connected here is power. So this guy here feeds power from, everything powers from the same main battery. So that's just power going down, power and ground. So essentially, yeah, I mean, pretty straightforward. It's just power, ground, and signal for both this and this. The camera is powered directly from the transmitter, so you just got to supply battery power here, and everything else just kind of runs. What else can I tell you about this? Down here, this little pan and tilt is really nice and compact, and I like that it has, so this design has a base plate here, so that when you land and there's sort of shock to the system, rotation in this direction gets dampened, well, really gets entirely supported by this base plate. So the camera is really nice and protected. I also extended it a little bit in height so that when you tilt this, you actually get a significant amount of look down, which I have found to be incredibly useful when flying, because you often are flying above your, you know, kind of your airstrip or wherever you're going or whatever the points of interest might be. And so I find it to be useful because then you can look down, see where you are. The pan is, you know, oops, I should put this back in. There we go. So the pan is quite a lot. It's basically 180 degrees, so you can look straight down the wing, same in the other direction. And so as I'm flying, I find oftentimes I'm actually looking up, because when the plane is banking and you want to look into your turn, you're looking up when the plane is banked over, so you're seeing your kind of destination on base legs in particular, and you're often looking out this way. So I find it really intuitive to fly this way, because you don't really have to think. It's like a flight simulator. Basically, you're just in cockpit, and it tracks the movement exactly as your head turns. So it's very intuitive. Back here, I just 3D printed a little container for the little mini GPS module. Works great, kind of looks nice because it's kind of embedded in the foam there. Easy to pop out if you wanted to. Inside here, if I take this out, oops, take it out here. So yeah, so if you bought a new one of these hatches, you can literally just pop it in. You just have to take the two servo wires and power out. I put a JST on it, so you can just disconnect this whole entire module, and you can have just this as your FPV tray, pop it in, connect a couple of servo leads and that JST plug, and now you have your FPV. Take those three things out, different canopy in, and now you're just flying line of sight in stock form. Tried to make it modular, you know, for convenience. So what's in here? So basically, and I'll label all of this for you, but basically these two things, you can see the receiver there. This is pan and tilt. So these two, I forget which is which, but I'll look in my transmitter and figure that out for you. But essentially all it is two servos that come out. And these two servo receivers, or channels I should say, channel 6 and 7, those are brought in from this guy. So inside the front here, this is the video receiver. On the other side, I don't know if I can open this one-handed here. Hold on one second. Just gonna pop this guy open so you can see what's inside. So what's in here is the Trinity Head Tracker. So this is an add-on module here, and it talks directly to the receiver to the transmitter rather, and that's done through the training port. So basically you take this cable, this just plugs in here, and then you have a trainer output on the other end. And on channels 6 and 7 into your transmitter is the pan and tilt. So as you tilt this guy, tilt, of course, and pan in that direction. They've just converted to PWM outputs, and your basic system pulls in those two channels in the transmitter and feeds them out to the receiver on two channels. Now, channel 6 and 7 is Fat Shark default. I think there's another setting you can change it to like 7 and 8. I never did, I just kept the default 6 and 7. Worked perfectly for me, so I just kept it. And you were asking about, I guess, S-Bus control. Looks to me, I actually thought I had this connected on PWM, but it looks like I have this S-Bus connected. So that's S-Bus coming out into the, yeah, there it is there, S-Bus input of the flight controller. But you don't have to do it that way. You can absolutely just bring it in via PWM, which is, I'll show that to you in here. Right there. That's the PWM port, and it has a breakout cable, which I have. Shoot, I don't have it right on me right here, but I do have it in the box. So you basically just connect those PWM connections on the little lead that comes out of it into your receiver, and now your PWM for the connection. So simple enough. And then, of course, the flight controller does rudder, throttle, aileron, elevator. So you plug those channels into here. And the only other thing is GPS, so that's this guy that goes back here. And this guy, this is just to tune. I actually kept it basically stock. You can see, it looks like basically stock. I never touched this, so whatever came in the box is what I left it as. Looks like they're not actually centered. Not sure why, but I didn't change it, so yeah, it flew perfectly, just straight out of the box as it is. Very easy to set up, no problems. I found it to be very intuitive, but essentially that's all it really is. And so on the transmitter, you have 3 modes. You can put it in just straight stabilized, well, actually you can turn it off, or you can have it in stabilized mode. You can have it in geofencing mode, which is a predetermined distance. I want to say it's 300 meters. I might get that number wrong. I might have to look at the manual to get that, but something in that vicinity. And the other mode is, return to home. So if it loses signal, or you go into the other mode, just with on a 3-position switch, then it comes back to you and circles at 100 meters directly above the location where it got GPS lock. So typically I would put it on the runway, then turn it on, give it 30 seconds or so to GPS lock, then I know it's centered on the runway, and then go fly. And then you don't really have to think about it. So if you want it, like it draws a lot of attention, of course. People want to see what I'm seeing, so I do the ride along, or I've had other club members just fly it, and because I can just flick it into the circle mode, I do that, and then I hand over the controller, they put the goggles on, take their time, and then one flip of a button and you're back into flying again. So pretty straightforward. I mean, it's a good little system. I have had a lot of fun with it. I've been flying it on 2200s, which is about right for it. You can fly it, 2200s was giving me about 5 minutes of flight time. Is that right? No, a little more than that, actually. More like 7 or 8 minutes. 5 minutes if you were like really heavy on the throttle. But I find when I'm flying FPV, I just like to kind of toot around and look at stuff. So I tend not to be flying at full throttle. I don't know how much bigger. I did fly on 2500 milliamp hours just because I had them, and that was fine too, but I've never gone bigger. I doubt you'd want to. I mean, the plane is not that large, so that's probably a good maximum on 3S. What else can I tell you about it? That's basically it. Oh, here's the Fat Shark battery. So it looks like it's 3/4 charge right now. I have a charge lead that just plugs in here, and then I just plug it directly into, this is a 2-cell, basically all this is a 2-cell 18650 battery pack. So I don't know what Fat Shark does with this exactly. I've never actually used this lead. But basically I just plug into a lead that goes into here into my charger, and then I charge it as a 2-cell lithium ion pack, and it's always done fine. Nice little Fat Shark receiver antenna case. Yeah, and that's basically the setup.